And by leading by example, the other people will come. And people are ripe for it anyway. They're ripe for it, you know. A lot of people are, you know, as we know, I'm sure, in our own lives, we know people, you know, the normal everyday people who are watching the TV and, you know, eating the terrible Western diet, you know, drinking away at the pub, and, you know, are they really happy? You know, most people aren't really searching for something. They're not able to figure out what is life really about. You know, it's not very fulfilling. And the ironic thing is that the real key to happiness, which is what we're really seeking, unless you're completely mad, what you're really seeking is to be happy. And the key to happiness is exactly the opposite, like virtually everything we're told. It's exactly the opposite of what we're indoctrinated and conditioned to believe. It's not about what you can accumulate. It's completely the opposite. It's about what you can give. And the more that you give, the more blessed and the more rich you become. And this is how we lead by example. I am an example because what I have done with my life is try to give something back. You know, maybe I die tomorrow, maybe I live to 80. It wouldn't hardly matter. If I die tomorrow, I've lived a beautiful, rich life. I have exercised my conscience. I have worked with other people who feel likewise and act likewise. These are the most beautiful people that you'd ever want to know. They're real friends. And if you have even one such friend, you're doing well, much less the many that I have and the many of the people in the circles that I move in. This is the way of life. This is the beauty of life. And I'm completely convinced that people will easily come on board. You know, you just have to lead by example.
Well, you certainly are doing that, Ken, without a shadow of a doubt. You've been an inspiration to me to stop observing what's going on and start being a participant in life.
Light a fire under your ass, man, and get going, isn't it? Absolutely. And it's the same message Gary was saying last night on the Scottish Sovereigns. We sit around and talk about this too much instead of actually getting up and doing something about it. But, you know, part of the problem as well as the overt wars we have going on abroad, we have a covert war going on in our own country, which is a war to suppress our consciousness, to basically distract and, like you say, indoctrinate the schooling system and distract us from these real issues, so that you try telling people in the street what's going on and they're just completely shut off to it. It's very difficult to get through to them. And I think we have like fluoridated water. It's known to be a mind suppressant, and we have all of this going on at the same time. It's such a big struggle, you know.
It's a hearts and minds battle as much as anything else. But as Ken says, it really doesn't matter whether we wake people up or not. I think people wake up because the conscience becomes conscious, essentially. And as soon as that happens, they realise that their existence up to that point has been nothing more than an observer. We watch X Factor. We're supposed to observe other people, celebrities, living. We merely observe as passive. So it really is what we choose to do, I think, which brings us quite neatly onto the actual next Gaza Flotilla that you were talking about, Ken. I totally agree with what you're saying. It would be a mistake, with our limited resources as they are, to not use our intelligence most of all, because you can't. I mean, if you think you can throw stuff about. No offence, but that essentially sums up the American military, is that munitions make up for all things.
God, I do apologize, my brothers. I don't know if you can hear me, but you're really dropping out a lot now. I catch little bits and pieces. And I'm so sorry. I want to hear what you're saying and actually get into a conversation, but I find myself getting into a monologue because I can't really hear you so well. I'm only getting bits and pieces.
Right. Well, actually, Ken, that's a good thing. If you want to continue talking, I know our listeners don't want to hear us waffling on.
Was he talking about a new flotilla?
You just carry on if you can hear me.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, I'm hearing some of what you say, and I, you know, again, I just keep coming back to the same things, and that is that really we of course, let's be aware of our surroundings. Let's be aware of what's impacting people. You know, let us be aware of the fact that the power of propaganda. I mean, this is certainly something that we would be wise to direct our energy at, which is to end the whole corporate media, mass media system. And I think the way that we do that is actually through what we're doing right now. It's not as fast as we would like, and we should be creative. We should think creatively. And this is, I think, the artistic mind, the creative mind, the potential is massive. Let us not be confined to those things that we've done over and over. Let us be creative and think of new ways, new ideas to spark consciousness and create new actions that really affect the change that we want to see in the world. There's no end to the potential, and so we should not base our predictions on what we've done in the past alone. We should think creatively and create new scenarios, new paradigm shifts. These things are all possible, but you have to first imagine it. And again, this just brings me back to the same perspective, and that is that the real opponent is not any exterior force. It's first being able to imagine something. Every great thing that's ever happened, every great idea, all of it starts with an impulse, an idea. And that idea, generally the vast majority of ideas turn to nothing. They're only an idea. They're just some brain waves and little electrical energy impulses. That's it. But if you take an idea, if you can imagine something, and then you share it with someone else, and that idea is such, compelling is such, that it actually sparks someone else to conduct a course of action, and then gets other people to be aware of that idea. Before you know it, you have something very, very, very powerful. The flotilla, and I give a lot of credit to, I'm not actually one of the initiators of the flotilla. I was very concentrated on Aloha Palestine, which intends to do trade, which is an extremely important thing because, aid is not the answer. It's not. Nobody wants to live on handouts. However, I give real credit to the organizers of the flotilla. The power of that idea is massive, and we've only scratched the surface. Here's what I'm focused on. First off, I'm not going back to Gaza on a flotilla unless it has major scale. I'm not going to do that because I'm not stupid, I'm not crazy. I have been directly charged with being a terrorist operative and going to Gaza to train a commando unit for Hamas. So if I go back, either I'm going to end up dead because they're going to kill me, or they're going to take me to prison. And since they've said that I'm a terrorist, it's not really possible that they can let me go. They're going to have to prosecute me, and I don't expect any justice at all in Israel, none. If I'm to achieve any one thing by going to jail, it will be as a symbol of the thousands of Palestinians, and beyond the Palestinians, the thousands, tens of thousands perhaps, of people who are being held against their will with no due process of law. If I have the opportunity to serve as a symbol of all of these people, then that would be something that I would consider worth losing my freedom over. But I'm not going to do that lightly, and I'm not going to go back I'm not going to go back by sea to Gaza unless I'm involved in a flotilla that I have absolute confidence in, that I know is being done in the most powerful way possible. And that is exactly why I have started the process of working with others to purchase a big ship. We're talking about a ship that can carry 1,000 passengers in June of next year, and to have a massive amount of involvement with dozens of ships. Now, if this can happen by September or October, and to be honest, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I've heard the announcement of 60 ships and 500 vehicles. If that happens, fantastic, absolutely fantastic, really. And I'll seriously look at going on that. I mean, if it's 60 ships and you've got at least one or two big ships with several hundred passengers, I see myself going for sure. But if it's a smaller one, if it's smaller in scale and it doesn't have at least one big ship with many hundreds of passengers, I'm not going to go. And I'm not going to go because I'm not going to sacrifice my freedom for something that I think the Israelis can manage, that they can handle. And there are a lot of other elements to the strategy that I think are imperative, things that we can do that can prevent the Israelis from getting away with a false flag operation in the form of killing their own soldiers and blaming it on us. Because, we should anticipate that. and there are things we can do. Many things we can do.
I think a good idea for any future attempt to do this would be to have a continuous live video feed coming out to certain websites where people can keep an eye on what's happening, and then we basically have footage and we have first-hand evidence. The Israeli government and armed forces kind of keep it suppressed like they have done with the last footage, because the footage is being live feeded to anyone who wants to see, and they can see if there's any invasion or anything that you weren't the aggressors.
Well, listen, that is absolutely true. However, that alone won't do it, because that was already on the first Free Gaza boats that I was on that made it to Gaza back in 2008. They had a system, but it was jammed. And on this ship with the Turkish, they did jam the original satellite transmissions, and the Turks had a good backup, and that backup was able to get out the signals that really prevented the Israelis from achieving the propaganda coup that they were striving for. So what we have to do is anticipate that the Israelis are going to jam the signals. Now, if we're really effective, and we get enough people involved, we get some of the big name people that need to come on the Hard Talk interview. If anybody watched it, Hugo Chavez, you need to be on that flotilla. Nelson Mandela, please, my brother, please, you should be on that flotilla. Desmond Tutu, why wouldn't you be on that flotilla? The Dalai Lama, come on, be on that flotilla. Let the people who say they care about justice in this world really put up. Now is the time. This is the time. Let us do it. If we get people like that involved, if we have large scale, and we have a public relations campaign that is intelligent and effective, and we can do this, then we're going to make clear, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that if the transmissions are jammed, that of course it is the Israelis. But if they weren't jammed, here's what will happen. We'll have CCTV cameras at every angle of every part of our ship, and we will be sending those signals live to the world, unedited, for the world to see. We have nothing to hide at all. We also are well aware of the fact that in Israel, the Israeli soldiers that were killed in the invasion of Gaza, I think it was 8 or 10 or something like that, I believe it was 8 of them were killed by friendly fire. So, if Israel jams the signals and prevents the world from seeing live what's happening, and any Israeli soldiers are killed, we should say preemptively, Israel has killed them, because we're not going to kill them. Just like we didn't kill them the first time, we're not going to kill them the second time. But make no mistake about it, Israel is capable of killing them. The other thing that we should do, and so here it is. I mean, I'm not the smartest guy in the room here. I mean, there are plenty of smart people out there, and I'm sure they can figure this out for themselves. But if these things are not done, for the next flotilla, as far as I'm concerned, it is a mistake. The other thing that needs to be done, absolutely 100%, is loud, vocal demands for the UN and the EU to send their representatives to every harbor where the ships depart from, and I reckon we should make it one big harbor, every single ship to be inspected by the EU and the United Nations. 100%. Not only inspected, then for escort vessels to follow us from the port all the way to Gaza, to follow us, so that there can be no accusation at all that there are any weapons on any of those ships. If the EU and the UN refuse to do it, then we will simply point out the fact that the EU and the UN are so full of shit that they don't actually care about affecting any justice in this world, that they refuse to do something that they're fully capable of doing, which would verify that we have no weapons and pose no threat to Israel at all. If they refuse to do it, then it shall expose them for what they are as well. Criminal in their behavior, derelict in their responsibility, and a huge part of the problem. We can compel them to do their job. And if we do that, if we have escorts, if we have inspections, if we have famous people on board, if we have all of our stuff sent live via the internet, if we do everything correctly, I don't believe Israel can do a damn thing. Not a damn thing. But we have to do that. We have to do it. If we don't do it, we're our own worst enemy. And I'm not convinced that we're going to do that by September or October. So that's why I'm working with people to make sure that what I'm talking about becomes reality for June of next year. And I know we can do it. We can do it. It's not up to Israel. It's up to us.